proposed congestion tax remains the same. Hardworking commuters from New Jersey and New York. Like many of you, I have deep concerns about the congestion tax. With Governor Hochul's and the MTA's new proposed $9 congestion tax, you're talking about whacking hardworking families from New Jersey and New York and the tri-state area upwards of about $2,500 a year. That's if you have Easy Pass, and about $3,500 a year if you don't. You're talking about countless families and small businesses will see thousands of dollars drained from their pocketbooks at a time when they're already struggling. It's just not right. Now, New York promised cleaner air and lower costs today, but this plan does just the opposite by the MTA's own admission in the documents they submitted to the federal government. They even admitted that the initial tax was too high. They said it today, a problem the MTA created themselves, but yet they still want to go ahead and find another way to whack hardworking families with thousands of dollars a year in a new congestion tax. It just doesn't make any sense. When the congestion tax was first announced, I joined countless of hardworking families and commuters to defeat it. And now we'll once again do the same thing. This congestion tax has been a cold that the MTA refuses to shake, but will refuse to stop fighting it. From the very beginning, we've made it clear to New York, when you try to cover up your messes on the backs of hardworking Jersey families, we won't let you do it. First, let's again be clear. It doesn't matter if the price is reduced. The real toll of the congestion tax is on the pockets of hardworking Jersey families and other hardworking families in the tri-state area. Older folks, those with disabilities, and those visiting doctors and hospitals in New York have no choice for many of them to drive into the city because they're receiving life-saving care at NYU or Beth Israel. Even with the governor's revised plan, driving to New York will still cost drivers thousands of dollars a year for commuters and, of course, a fortune every day. That's, by the way, on top of what people already pay to commute or go to the city, $17 a day for bridges and tunnels, and, of course, the cost of gas and parking. It's just too much. Families need more than ever someone who's going to stop these tax after tax and do everything they can to lower taxes and lower the cost of hardworking families. I don't understand why we would do this to families, especially now when families are facing inflation and higher prices. We need to do everything we can to lower prices, to lower taxes and lower costs on hardworking families. This is exact opposite of what families want and need. We got to figure out a better way. And again, I'm asking the MTA, please clean up your own mess. Don't put this on the backs of hardworking families in Jersey, the outer boroughs, north of 60th Street. Don't stick it to small businesses that are struggling to survive. Don't stick it to first responders and Uber drivers and nurses and electricians and other labor. Don't do that to them. It's not right. With the increasing cost of living, this is a price, frankly, that too many just can't afford. You're talking about thousands of dollars a year. That's on top of what people are already paying for their tolls to commute to work every day or to go to a doctor or visit a loved one. The MTA said today that what's at stake are the basics. The basics, yes. The basics are exactly at stake. People trying to be able to afford to pay their bills, to pay for food, to pay for clothing, to pay for their rent, to pay for their electric bills, right? All these things are at stake right now, to pay for childcare, health care, right? Those are the basics. Hitting families with yet another tax makes no sense. It's just not right. Listen, so Jersey families, in my opinion, we should help them do everything we can to focus on paying for the essentials like groceries and diapers, getting their health care costs down, getting their child care costs down, their utility bills down, their rent down. Now, we should not be rewarding New York for reckless mismanagement at the MTA. And it is reckless, right? Look at their budgets. They blew $700 million a year on fare skippers last year. People who rode the MTA, mass transit, and didn't pay. A recent study came out, a report that 50% of those who rode an MTA bus last year didn't pay to ride. They just jumped on and didn't pay. So you want hardworking families in Jersey to pay for the MTA's mismanagement because they can't get their house in order? That makes no sense. They should fix and clean up their own house. They shouldn't give the Buffalo Bills $500 million to build a new stadium. Let them pay to build their own stadium. Use the resources to fix your MTA and the federal government in Washington. right? Where I helped negotiate and pass and write the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It includes an enormous investment in mass transit. I'm very proud of that for my state. And by the way, New York got a significant investment from that, and they get about $2 billion a year for mass transit money from the federal government. I don't understand why they can't. That's making other taxpayers in Jersey and Connecticut and other places help pay for New York's mass transit system. That should be good enough. To turn around and now whack Jersey families for more, right, is just not right. It doesn't make any sense. And this is not the time to stick it to hardworking families that are struggling to get by. We need to lower their costs. We need to lower their taxes. We need to make life more affordable. This is just the opposite. I don't know what New York is doing. The congestion tax has always been a cover up for the MTA's mismanagement. Again, I can't stress that enough that we should not punish hardworking commuters just trying to see loved ones or get to work and get to a job to pay their bills. It's unacceptable. Finally, and this is incredibly important, and I've worked with the mayor of Fort Lee, who's done an amazing job on this, and there's obviously been a lot of litigation around this and other issues. We cannot put a price on the health of our children and families. The MTA admits that with the congestion tax, will lead to an increased amount of pollution in the outer boroughs and in northern New Jersey, especially by the GW Bridge, where you'll see a massive backup by their own admission, the MTA's admission in their own study submitted to the federal government. You will see a massive backup of trucks at the GW Bridge. Those are cancer-causing trucks with billowing pollution when they're backed up, sitting and waiting by the GW Bridge. There will be a lot more truck traffic because of the traffic patterns will shift because of the congestion tax. You have trucks backed up at the GW Bridge, billowing carcinogens, cancer-causing pollution into Fort Lee and other communities nearby the bridge. And I'm not going to stand by and allow New York to make changes that are actually going to hurt the environment, cause more pollution. Now, I get it. If you're south of 60th Street in New York, maybe it makes your life better. But what about people north of 60th Street? What about all those hardworking families in the outer boroughs who are going to have to suck in more smog now and more pollution and more cancer-causing pollution? What about our families in Jersey? It's totally unacceptable, and I can't believe they're putting this proposal forward without actually putting forward any kind of solution to address the pollution. I mean, it's bad enough that after our 100-year cooperative relationship with the Port Authority with New York, that they're moving forward on sticking it to with this higher tax congestion tax toll on families and saying we're not actually going to support any mass transit anywhere else except in New York. And they're going to do it while putting more pollution into New Jersey and hurting our families. It's just completely outrageous. And again, we fought it and stopped it once before. We'll fight it and stop it again. The MTA admitted that children in Bergen County near I-95 and the GW Bridge will face increased air pollutants and toxins. Again, I want to make this clear. It's in their MTA's own reporting. They admit it. They admit it's going to lead to more pollution in the outer boroughs. And again, I am a huge supporter of mass transit. I've helped write and pass and negotiate the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the largest investment in a century in mass transit. It's hugely important, right? I'm a huge supporter. But the bottom line is there are a lot of places in northern New Jersey where people have to drive. They have no choice. There isn't mass transit. I want more of it. That's why we're very proud to have gotten the Gateway Train Tunnel started. We're going to build that. We'll have more capacity in our train system. That's all great, but you can't stick it in the meantime to hardworking families that are trying to get by. So the bottom line is we will rally the troops and renew our bipartisan effort. I will work with Governor Murphy and our mayors and anybody else, whether that's small businesses or drivers or healthcare workers or first responders or teachers, anybody who wants to stand up and fight this. We will fight it. We will deliver another win for Jersey and for people's wallets and, of course, our environment. I know if we work together and we get back to a cooperative relationship, like I'm urging the governor of New York to do, our best days will always be ahead of us. Thanks and God bless.
Hey there, looks like we have a question from Henry with Pix 11. If anyone has any questions, just make sure to raise your hand.
Hi there, Congressman. Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I turned my camera on, but I'm not seeing that button. Not important. Thank you for doing this. Two follow-up questions. Are you confident that the lawsuit that New Jersey is party of right now will be able to do enough to forestall this until President-elect Trump gets in? And then he's essentially said, even again today, that he would kill it, number one. And number two, I've spoken with certain New York lawmakers Congresswoman Malliotakis, specifically over on Staten Island, who opposes this. She said that as a result of this, that Congress would take a good hard look at the money it's sending to New York. Are you willing to go that far with that level of threatening New York?
Well, we've looked at legislation, Nicole and I and others in the past, and introduced legislation to stop the congestion tax. And if the MTA wants to go forward, you can't double dip the way they're dipping. We can't have Jersey taxpayers sending federal dollars, right, to New York, and then wanting to go stick their hand in people's other pocket from Jersey and take more out. So if they're going to stick their hand in our pockets, we're not going to also send them federal tax dollars. You can't double dip here. And I think we've made that pretty clear to New York. Your first question was about standing up. Listen, I think there's a serious amount of litigation. There's not just New Jersey's litigation out of Fort Lee class action suit, but other lawsuits I know out of New York and I believe out of New Jersey. Of course, the state has its own suit, and all this was put on hold when Governor Hochul backed down because she realized just how deeply unpopular the congestion tax is, not just in New Jersey, but in her home state. It's why she backed off of this, right? She hit the pause button because she knows how deeply unpopular this is with families and how people can't afford it. It's why she hit the pause button. She said herself today the amount was too much money. So I don't know how you go from $15 to $9 and say, oh, $9 a day. Oh, it's only $2,500 a year. People can certainly afford that when people are struggling. That makes no sense to me. So I think many of these lawsuits will go back on, and courts will gear up again. And I'm optimistic, as I was before New York canceled the congestion tax the first time, that these lawsuits will hold water and will, in the end, tell New York they can't move forward.
Looks like we have a question from Sarah with News 12. Just unmute yourself when you can.
Yes, I think hopefully you all can hear me. Thank you, Congressman. My two questions real quick was just one, what is the first thing that you all are going to do, after seeing this press conference this morning? And then the second piece of this is, are we really to expect this to go into effect in January, or is this sort of a full court press from your side and Governor Murphy's side to sort of maybe push that away for a while, or at least, put up a fight to delay this?
Listen, I can't speak for Governor Murphy, but I know he puts me out this morning, but I'm going to do everything in my power to stop this, to stop the congestion tax, to save people money, and to lower costs and lower taxes for families and commuters, right? That's always been my position. I've been working on this issue for more than 4 years. We stopped it once, we'll stop it again, and we'll do everything we can and using every tool we can to stop the congestion tax. And that is going to be what I'm going to work on. And I'm going to analyze every aspect of what they proposed today. I still have to look at every piece of it. I know they put out I guess they're putting forward some new rules in the coming days. I'll study that. But the bottom line is this: you can't whack hardworking families with a new tax. It's already a fortune to commute to New York and to drive into New York. It's too much. The idea that right now you'd hit families with another tax is absurd, and they know it, and they should fix their own mess, clean up the MTA, and they'll have more money to do better things if they stop the mismanagement, right? I mean, think about it. If they actually had collected for people riding last year, they would have another $700 million in their pockets. If they actually, when someone got on a bus, said you got to pay to get on the bus, they would have hundreds of millions of dollars more to invest in mass transit. They're not doing their job, right? I was in the subway the other day. I paid. Everyone's jumping over the turnstile. I'm looking around like, wait, why? How can anyone just jump over the top of a turnstile and not pay, right? That's ridiculous. People got to pay to ride, and they should enforce their rules. Don't look to Jersey to clean up their mess.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you guys very much. And I'm going to read everything. I'll probably speak again next week about this. After I read everything, we're working on some proposals. I'll come back to you with more next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. If there's any questions, just reach out.